Good morning, Paul. How are you?
Good. Good morning to you.
Can you hear me okay?
I sure can.
Got Agni, you fine as well. So off we go. What's the weather like there? Because at the moment here, we are melting here in the UK.
We're lucky today. The temperatures dropped a bit. It's down to uh, kind of fall levels, but it's humid. That's the thing that's killing us in New York City is the moisture.
Oh, we could do with some moisture here. We're in drought conditions here, so
Oh, it's terrible.
I know. Well, we're not used to it in Britain, so we're all complaining.
I know. You have no air conditioning, and
Now we just have to sit here and suffer.
yeah, that's no good.
Maybe one day. Anyway, enough of my woes. So your band's called October Thorns. Uh,
Yes,
you're described as prog metal. Is that how you would describe yourselves?
absolutely. Yeah,
That's a
that's
good
the
start.
band was we were active from 1999 to about 2001, and at that time period, Dream Theater was the king of prog metal, and we certainly all had a common ground being fans of Dream Theater. I was much older than the other guys in the band. I was 33, and everyone else was in their late teens and early 20s. So my background was a little bit more coming from the 70s art rock stuff. I grew up on Genesis and Yes and Jethro Tull, Pink Floyd, and those were the things that led me to modern progressive metal. But I started as like a metalhead first. I was into, Rush and Ozzy and more technical metal. And then that became even more advanced. The older I got, the more technical music I started to like.
I think you do, don't you? I think as you get older, you tend to want to explore new musical horizons. The same goes for when you as a musician yourself. You know that you start off just wanting to have good fun, and
Right.
then it's like you need that next challenge. You need that next challenge, and
Yeah.
but so what happened? Because I mean, you formed in '99, and your original like 6 track demo was in 2000, and then I don't know what happened. What happened to you?
After 2001,
Mm. Was it
um,
2000 or somewhere around there that it just things just seemed to come apart?
yes, it was difficult. The age
Mm.
differences caused a lot of friction. I was 33, so I was really feeling the pressure that I only had a good couple years left to kind of make it in the music business. So I was really authoritative with the guys, and they were, being teenagers. It was just coming from two really radically different viewpoints. And they weren't ready for professional playing, and I was forcing them, over and over again, like, you have to have a tuner on stage, you can't do this, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that caused, a lot of friction that just we weren't able to overcome. And plus, our primary songwriter was 16 years old when we started. By the time he hit 18, 19 years old, his musical tastes had started shifting, and he wasn't really even that crazy about the music that he had written 3 years before. So he was no longer enthusiastic about his own material. So it just like it fell apart. I mean, it's heartbreaking because I loved the music, and I do love all the guys like family, but it's really hard when you're that far apart to find
Mm.
any common ground and get along professionally because you're not on the same page.
No, and you come across as like the dad figure who
Yes,
just
yes,
well we need to settle down. We need to write the chord structures. We need and it's
yes,
like yeah. Who
right.
you telling us to do it? Yeah, I
There was a
can
lot
get
of that.
that. I can definitely get that.
Yep.
But now you're back with a. Is this a different lineup or is it the same? You formed a new band around yourself.
No, this is actually the re-release of that 6-song demo.
Mm.
So everybody that was in the band from the beginning is represented there. Plus some demos that weren't multi-track recorded. They were just recorded in the studio live to 2-track. So there was no chance to really enhance or modernize those. So those are kind of raw as is. And then there were 3 demos I presented to the band with my own songwriting that we covered live in the first 6 months before the band really started writing their own music. When I joined the band, I think they had 3 originals. So for us to play out live, we did a cover or 2, and then we did half my material. And again, my material was based on Genesis and Rush and some of the 70s prog, and we were starting to lean heavily towards Nevermore and Symphony X and some of those modern bands at the time. And those 2 things did not match up. So eventually my songs were weeded out by my choice. I was like, this is schizophrenic. We need to focus on Chalky, you know, the guitar player. His writing had to be the core, and then everybody else in the band had a chance to contribute. And that's how the band evolved. And then so those songs are represented, you know, my songs that I brought to the band. And one of those songs we re-recorded as a band, one of my demos. So I put both of those on there so you could see the evolution of the band and how those 2 styles didn't mesh. So I thought it was important to tell that part of the story. You know, how a band has to kind of choose a modified democracy and get behind a core, a focus, which we did. You know, we chose what our strongest writing style was and went with it.
It was a time of great flux as well for prog rock, prog metal. We had got the likes of Dream Theater kind of pushing in ever radical more directions, and a lot of the younger generation weren't really listening, as you say, to Pink Floyd and King Crimson and Roxy Music and, you know, all those kind of bands that we know and love. It was like, yeah, but that's all the pomp from the 70s. We don't want that. But these days, it's turned full circle again to some extent, hasn't it? I mean, Genesis have just finished a tour against all odds. Did you get a chance to see any of that?
I
what did you think?
I saw it, and for me, it was almost 40 years to the day that I saw them in high school, and the set list hadn't changed more than 2 or 3 songs. So it was a bit of, you know, kind of a coming home almost to see them again. But the same complaints that I had back in 1982 were even more obnoxious to me now. You know, it's just like, okay, where's Squonk? Where's Supper's Ready? Where's the keyboard solo from In the Cage? There's just things that as Genesis became popular and a pop band, they were forced or chose to leave behind. And, you know, we could spend the whole time talking about my feelings about Genesis and how they sold out or whatever, but it was a special night to say goodbye to a very formative band for me.
Absolutely.
And they, you know, considering the age of everybody and how physically they were challenged, they did a remarkable job. And Phil, you know, I might have problems with his solo work or whatever. He delivered, you know, and he worked around whatever limitations he had. There's some notes he couldn't hit. And he just, from a chair, sitting down, was still just such a great front man. It was a really special night. I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah, I think it brings it all back to you as well, doesn't it? That those roots that you have in prog, did that inspire you even more to think, yeah, I know I was right. I want to do these complex songs, these long songs.
Yes. Yep.
And you have released a song called The Circle Game, essentially as a single. The mod, do we call them singles anymore? I never know. But is that a brand newly written song, or is that one from that era that has been re-recorded?
That was literally the first song I was presented with. I received a cassette tape in the mail from Dave Pando, the band's founder. So that song had been written in its entirety. The lyrics had been written by a friend of the bass players, and Dave actually sang on the first demo. So that to me felt like a really good choice for the band's title for this album. and for the first song to be released. It kind of, connects the dots. It's a way for me to be coming back home to my first band. I've been in New York City as a front man. It meant a lot to me that song was chosen. All the songs on this are strictly from the past. The only thing new is in the song Sounds of Life that was never completed, the band recording of that. So I went in and fixed the ending and added keyboard parts that were missing. I did vocals for the song Leviathan, which we never had full vocals for. It was never recorded. And that's the only thing that's new are those two songs. I had brand new vocals and some new keyboard parts, but everything else was recorded back in 1999, 2000.
It's very cool. It's been released, hasn't it, in May?
Yes.
On Trubunal Records, and there is a deluxe CD version with some bonus tracks, isn't there?
Yes.
Digital download, of course, which we got to have these days.
Right.
And just sort of make sure we get that in there. And I guess my question is, what happens to Paul now? What happens to the band now? Has this spurred you on into wanting to do more with this, with a version of this band, or is this now, has that come full circle and you're moving on to other projects?
Well, the history of this band is relatively painful. The way we broke up. We've had a couple reunions over the years that weren't great. It's some people weren't involved, and some there's hurt feelings all around. So, it's hard to think that, with our bass player Dave Z passed. He was killed in a car crash while he was on the road with Adrenaline Mob. So just that alone kind of puts a difficult emotional baggage. Like, if we ever did anything again, who would we replace? It's like, I mean, it's tough to even look at that and say, should I revisit this as a band? The drummer is a full-time sound engineer, so there's no way he'd ever be able to play, and the guitar player and keyboard player, they're very hard to find. They're not really active on social media, so I'm not sure what they're up to, but no one's really a full-time musician.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it's ever going to happen again, which is really sad. But I'm still continuing. I'm still recording. I have my own project called Critical Consciousness that has the drums tracked. And I'm going to be getting to work this fall. I'm putting all the instruments down myself and doing the vocals. So that's my next step. If I ever get that into a live situation, then the October Thorns material would be something I would consider to play a couple songs live.
That would be good to hear.
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that, but it's hard right now. After COVID, it's hard to do anything live. So we'll just have to see what the next couple of years, bring for us.
How, I mean, progressive by its very name is progressive, but how do you feel about the modern progressive rock and metal, the stuff that's sort of come on through the 2010s and the 2020s? And has it gone too far for you, or what do you feel about the new sort of progressive bands?
That's a great question, because what I love about progressive music in general, for me, the definition is, kind of being very brave and explorative with different styles and different song structures and really thought-provoking lyrics. So when you say modern progressive metal, that umbrella is huge. So the things that I've really connected with that make me feel really excited are things like Gojira, which I just think they're brilliant and they're really interesting live. And the things that I have problems with are overly self-indulgent technical playing. So I feel like if it serves the song, and if the song is about something that demands a certain level of virtuosity, then I feel like it's really exciting. But a lot of times when it feels self-indulgent and masturbatory is where I get lost, I fall asleep. I don't care how technically amazing it is. It's not inspiring to me. So that's where Dream Theater has kind of left me really cold, is, after a certain point in their mid period, I would say 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is where I was just like, oh, it's too much. It's like, if you spend as much time exploring song structures and different instrumentations and that kind of stuff, rather than just playing as technically as humanly possible, I would be much more interested. And I think with symphonic music, if you study music history, there's always a pendulum swing from heavily ornamented music and technical playing to very simplistic. And same thing with art. Any kind of artistic expression visually, you're going to have different schools that go back and forth between real minimalism to really technical, high level stuff. And, I appreciate both, but the bottom line is, like, if I don't have a connection and resonate with it, if it doesn't touch me, I don't care what the intellectual movement is to make that music. It's like, I have to have something that so
it should be a
yeah,
story, really. I mean, progressive
yes,
music used to take you on journeys, whether it was
yes,
Dungeons and Dragons kind of journeys or spaceship journeys, or it always used to take you into some other place. That
yeah,
was made it so fun.
it challenge you to think.
Mm,
And I feel like to some of the other stuff, it's like, it's not about that communication with your listener. It's a one-way street where they're just a fire hose of technical information, where it's like, it's not music to me anymore in a lot of cases. Or something that's even like, you look at Arch Enemy, which is arguably, it's the most popular melodic
mm.
death band right now. And everybody looks cool, and it sounds interesting, but at the same time, it's like, it's just boring as hell. And you've got one of the best guitar players in the history of music
He
in
is
that
very,
band
very
that's
good.
underutilized, because you look at Nevermore's last 2 albums, you're like, dude, where is this level of interesting complexity? So it's hard, because I would never be a gatekeeper, or I would never be a snob and tell people who are enjoying a style of music that it's not valid, because I think that's a bullshit attitude to tell
Mm,
someone else what their experience is or isn't. It's like, I don't care what you like. If you feel the same way I feel and feel inspired or excited, that's what music's for. And different people like different things. So it's like, I don't like a lot of stuff, but I would never tell someone, their tastes are invalid. It's like,
no, I
that's
mean,
good for you. Go ahead and listen to
yeah.
Metallica now. I'm going to listen to Metallica then, because that's what I like. And it's like, I
Mm.
just, I have my opinions, but it doesn't mean that what you like doesn't matter.
And talking of likes, what if I was to put you on the spot and say, well, what is your ultimate favorite song? What would it be?
Supper's Ready from Genesis.
Oh, good
Yeah,
choice.
that's the one for me that
Mm,
checks all the boxes. It is lyrically extremely challenging. It might be, a little too drug induced 70s, nonsense, but I enjoy that. I think those lyrics are really poetic and literary. Like, it's almost like reading a short story when you read the lyrics for that. And then every twist and turn musically, from different song structures, different time changes, different instrumentation. And there's a band that technically were just, you couldn't top their technical ability. Everyone in that
no,
band was remarkable. So that song to me is like, I think it's 18 minutes. Just like, that's
yeah, it's sure to be
right. That's
one of
short.
Gabriel's finest moments, as prog should be. Prog should really go on and say, take you on these wonderful journeys in our heads,
Right.
and uh, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, Paul, and very best of luck with whatever projects you dream up in your prog mind.
Thank you, Carrie Anne. I
I'm
really appreciate
sure
it.
we're gonna love them. And good luck with
Thank you.
this album as well. People deserve to hear this music.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, Paul.
All
Bye
right. Have a
bye.
good day.
Have a lovely day.
You too.